All righty then. It appears that we have gone live. Isn't that correct? I believe that is the case. And we are now officially live in several different locations. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube, International Flavor, English version. And we are live on Instagram for the first time. I've not done this before. Uh, well, I've done 3 before, but usually it's Facebook, and I had to create a new Facebook page. So we are resolving that. My name is Samuel Trapp. You are listening to damradio.com and my show every day at 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. is in Missouri. That's Missouri time. And sometimes I do it in Florida. Tonight, because I'm going to be busy tomorrow on the 22nd, I am going to, I'm pre-recording my show for tomorrow. And I wish to discuss what I normally talk about, which is world events, which is interesting topics from around the globe. Of course, the whole world is waiting to see what is, what's going to happen when Donald Trump settles in. I imagine that'll be a little bit of time for him to do so before he actually settles in. We have some news stories that are really straight news, like the ski resort Inferno killing 76 people in Turkey yesterday, or maybe very early this morning. Pretty sure it was yesterday. Well, it depends on their hours and hours ahead of us in Florida. I want to say they're 8 hours ahead. Might only be 7, but I truly don't recall how far that is, especially with daylight savings. It sometimes gets a little confusing. So my name is Samuel Trapp. You are welcome to follow me and comment on this program, comment on things that are of interest to you and things that you would like to know. Across the bottom of the screen, you will see a ticker. And if you would like to be on the show, excuse me, if you would like to be on the show, just copy that information. It is, I'm doing this the evening before the show because, as I said, I'm not going to be available tomorrow. If you would like to make any commentary or join the show, either voice or commentary, the comments will show up to me as they show up at various places, like where I'm live streaming on, for example, Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. Those will all show up to me, and it'll show up the number of people that send comments and that type of thing. If you enjoy the program, I would appreciate it if you would like it on the YouTube channel. You can follow me every day, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at damradio.com/live. The show is broadcast, and then it also there's a schedule of other people that you can follow at damradio/schedule and check out some of our other great talk programs that we have. And if you like Dam Radio, you can listen to a great selection of rock music during times when people are not there talking. So today's topics, yesterday I read a very interesting article, an opinion piece, and there's been, I don't want to call him a copycat, but somebody on a similar topic. And And I talk about this topic all the time, and I feel pretty strongly about it from the American side. Those of you that are new to the program, I worked in arms control. I believe we made some, as a Russian interpreter, held a United States diplomatic passport, and I was just an interpreter, nobody special. But I feel that we made some very serious mistakes from the time period when we were actually making the world a safer place. I feel that U.S. diplomacy is basically dead. I have some disagreements, although generally I favor Trump. I think there are some issues with what he plans to do in the world and how he plans to run the world. I like the comments of "Make America, great again," depending on how far you go with that sort of thing. But I take it to be more of a focus on America. And if you choose to focus on America, I think that is a good thing. And it's about time somebody did, because we're always focusing on other countries and not ourselves. Before I get to the article I wish to bring to you, again by Tariq Amar, historian from Germany, working at the Koch University in Istanbul on Russia, Ukraine, and Eastern Europe. He talks about the history of World War II, culture of Cold War, and the politics of memory. I've read that before because I have read several of his opinion pieces, and I like them, and I will get to that in a little bit. But before I did, wanted to cover a couple of news events of the day, couple of interesting, in fact, very many interesting topics that I did wish to get to, and one of them is Russia, who is drafting new law to seize Western assets. Now, I've talked quite a bit how the West is attempting to figure out, both in Europe and in America, how to seize frozen Russian assets, mainly money, but Russia is trying to do the same on the other side. So the title is called, and this came out about noon today on the Russian side, and the article is entitled "Russia Drafting a New Law to Seize Western Assets." The legislation is expected to target nations that unlawfully confiscate Moscow's funds and property. I think that's an interesting topic, and it deserves further delving into. We need to get in there and learn some more. Basically, here the article begins as this: Russian authorities are drafting a new bill allowing for the seizure of assets belonging to Western states that have illegally confiscated Moscow's property and funds. The newspaper Izvestia reported on Tuesday, citing documents prepared by the Government Legislative Commission. The draft bill outlines the legal procedure and emphasizes that targeted foreign assets will be transferred into Russian state ownership after ruling by a court of arbitration. The list of properties and funds subject to seizure will be compiled by the country's Commission on Foreign Investments. In May, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree laying the groundwork for confiscating assets of U.S. companies and individuals to compensate for any Russian assets expropriated by Washington. If adopted, the broader legislation will target unfriendly Western states and related individuals, allowing Moscow to seize assets as reimbursement for financial damages incurred by Russia from the illegal confiscation of its funds and properties. The draft legislation reads, the Commission will reportedly review the draft bill as soon as next week. Vedomosti newspaper has cited two sources as saying that the bill was drafted by the country's Ministry of Justice and was included in the Commission's agenda on January 20th. Izvestia noted that the document has been approved by the relevant authorities, including the Bank of Russia, the Finance Ministry, the Economic Ministry, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Washington and its allies have frozen around 300 billion of sovereign Russian assets held in the Brussels-based Euroclear since the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022. Kiev has been persistently urging its Western backers to expropriate Russia's sovereign assets and use them to cover Ukraine's military and reconstruction expenses. The U.S. administration headed by Joe Biden supported the proposal, but European nations have rejected the idea due to mounting concern over the illegitimacy of such a move, arguing that it could land a hard blow on the Western financial system and the reputation of the euro. I happen to agree with that point for sure. Western allies were also planning to impose a windfall tax on profits generated by the frozen Russian assets and to spend those proceeds either directly to buy weapons for Ukraine or to offer them as collateral for a loan, which would then be used to bolster the country's military. Kremlin has repeatedly denounced the asset freeze as theft and argued that tapping into these funds would be illegal and set a dangerous precedent. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov had warned that Moscow would take legal action against those involved in the asset seizure. Now, I've talked about this in particular before. The danger here is that currently those assets are just frozen. I believe that some of the profits from those assets have been taken to fund some things in Ukraine, but I'm not positive on that. It's not important whether or not that's the case, or it is. But the fear that I have is that Russia, in creating such a law, would then have taken, although the U.S. has already done it, and so has the West, in taking private property of other people, but not public bank funds. So they've seized, frozen, taken, however you want to put it. They've done forfeitures on property in the United States owned by alleged oligarchs or people they don't like. They've taken seized bank accounts. They've seized, other assets, boats, cars. The U.S. has seized a lot of these things, but not the government assets. They've just frozen, but they've taken a lot of private property. And truthfully, I don't know the status of that property, what they did with it. Usually, there's a forfeiture process that you have to go through in order to be able to take that property. And I'm not sure how they pulled that off. In the federal world, there's quite a structure and series of procedures for them to follow in order to take those. And the escalation that I see is that Russia acts, I don't know about, maybe not first, if they're only targeting private property of companies, of individuals, of those sorts of entities, and not government money. The U.S. doesn't have any money that I'm aware of just sitting in a bank in Russia anyway for them to freeze. And the money that is being held in Brussels is currently just frozen. Nobody is outright taking it. Some of the commentary on that goes as such: an eye for an eye, an asset for an asset. This seems kind of fair. Yeah. Next comment. Such policies need to be sanctioned by and used through BRICS. Well, that's interesting. uh, here's one from a guy named George B. Mack. Supposedly, European nations have rejected the idea due to mounting concerns over illegitimacy of such a move. No, NATO warhawks don't care about legitimacy. They hesitated knowing that Russia could and would do the same to their assets. U.S. neocons and NATO warhawks only respect power, nothing else, not law, ethics, morality, national sovereignty, or justice. Well, that's kind of hard to disagree with. Guy named Knight Camel says Ibrahimovic was robbed of the Chelsea Football Club in the UK. I remember that. Well, they gave the West plenty of time to come to their senses, and they have shown the BRICS that the West cannot be dealt with. So time to make the globalists squeal in pain as they lose their holdings and start to shrink as the global South rejects them. The global South is definitely rejecting them, and most Americans, I hate to say it, but most Americans don't realize it, and you know, it's who knows what will come of this. I don't know, but I'm certainly following myself, and we're going to keep on looking. So that was part number one. Russia drafting a new law to seize Western assets. I wanted to talk a little bit about this ski resort Inferno. I was, that's terrible. Killed 76 people in Turkey, and 50 more have been injured in the fire in a hotel. A fire at a ski resort and a hotel in northwestern Turkey killed at least 76 people, injured 50, some critically, the country's interior minister said Tuesday. The blaze broke out in the early morning at the Grand Kartal Hotel in Kartalkaya ski resort, a popular winter destination in the Bolu province. According to Minister Al-Yerlikaya, the fire started on the restaurant floor of the 12-story hotel around 3:30 a.m., and it took the fire department 45 minutes to respond. The flames were said to have spread rapidly, fueled by timber cladding on the building. Witnesses reported seeing thick black smoke engulf the 161-room hotel within minutes, forcing guests and staff to flee in panic. Yerlikaya told reporters that the hotel was hosting 238 guests at the time, many of whom were families visiting during a nationwide 2-week school holiday. That's unfortunate and sad. There's a good amount of video on that. According to the governor, firefighters battled the flame for hours as strong winds made containment difficult. Officials said the hotel's location near a cliff complicated evacuation efforts. Some guests resorted to jumping from windows or using bed sheets to escape. The office also reported that at least 2 people died after jumping from the building in panic. Officials confirmed that 6 prosecutors have been assigned to investigate the fire. Authorities are examining possible safety violation and whether the hotel's fire prevention systems were functioning properly. Survivors have been transported to nearby hospitals for treatment, with several in critical condition. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has commented on the tragedy, vowing during an address in Ankara that all necessary steps will be taken to shed light on all aspects of the incident and to hold those responsible accountable. Very sad. This one I wanted to read yesterday. I found it very interesting just because I never thought of it. This is something in the wow category. And I wanted to read this yesterday. Like I said, never did. So here's what it's called. The article is called, and actually it came out nearly a week ago, but I only saw it yesterday or day before. Article is called "Wings of Death." India may have figured out a way a surprising way to defeat drones. This is interesting. A southern Indian state, and I mean the country of India, is using trained birds of prey to take down rogue UAVs as part of local policing. How do you like that? Get this story. With its terrifying talons, enormous wingspan, piercing gaze, and cunning hunting tactics while gliding high in the sky, the majestic eagle leaves its prey no chance. One of the planet's fastest birds is now doing what it has never done before in India, intercepting rogue drones. Police officials in the southern Indian state of Telangana have successfully trained 5 eagles to identify and down drones that could pose a threat to the visits of very, very important persons or to large public gatherings. The Garuda squad, named after a Hindu mythical sunbird, took more than 3 years of painstaking efforts to materialize. It is now part of the Telangana Police's Intelligence Security Wing, ISW, a specialized force overseeing important person security. This is India's first and only bird squad and the world's second after the Netherlands. The training has been a success, and the state police's top brass has received queries from the Army, the Coast Guard, and the paramilitary Border Security Force, each of which is eager to induct similar bird squads. How do you like that? Pretty interesting. A Dutch idea. Tafir Iqbal of the Indian Police Service heads Telangana's ISW and is closely associated with the project. He told us that the idea to train eagles against rogue drones was mooted in 2021 after several rounds of discussion about similar attempts by the Netherlands Army. In 2016, the Netherlands had trained eagles to intercept drones, but discontinued the project after a year as the squad was inefficient, the maintenance of the birds was expensive, and the eagles were prone to injuries by drone propellers and sharp blades. The Telangana police, however, decided to give it a try anyway. It scouted for enthusiastic falconers who could prepare a roadmap to train eagles and handle them during operations. Eventually, Mohammed Farid of Hyderabad and Abir Shudhari of West Bengal were recruited. After requisite position from the Forest Department, 3 eagle chicks, about 3 months old, were inducted at a cost of a few thousand rupees. A dollar equals 86 rupees. Police sources told RT, that's the newspaper. Service rules prohibit informal police interaction with the media, hence it is done anonymously. Later, 2 more were added. According to Indian wildlife protection law, hunting or catching wild birds such as eagles is prohibited and requires permits. Due to a diversity of environment, climate, and prey access, India has a variety of eagles. There are some species which are found in limited parts of the country. The golden eagle is one that does not go beyond the Himalayas. Many others are aquiline eagles, and the Pallas fish eagle are also of India, but during the non-breeding season. The lifespans of eagles in the wild is generally around 30 years. Yeah, I remember they're pretty long-lived. Hand-reared eagles which soar. Since the eagles were procured at an early age, they did not know their parents and grew up thinking they were human. Okay. This made the bond with humans stronger, source said. Hand-reared eagles are aggressive because they are fearless. Eagles have excellent 25 vision, meaning 20/5 vision, meaning that they can see things from 20 feet away, which humans can see at 5 feet away. In the initial months of training, the eagles were made to understand their trainers through a readied set of commands. Once well-versed, they were trained to identify drones. Eventually, drones were launched for them, which they brought down successfully. The tremendous power in the eagle's talons enabled them to destroy the drones easily. With eagles, it's all about the food and trust. Police sources told RT, once it starts to fully trust you, they will come back for food. So training for intercepting drones was about food. When they successfully intercepted a drone, they were well fed. Makes sense. The birds were given a specialized diet comprising fresh meat, such as rodents, fish, and poultry, crucial to maintaining their health. The birds from the dense Nalamala forest spanning Telangana and neighboring Andhra Pradesh were also fed rabbits, bats, and other birds. Regular veterinary care was provided, even as the falconers developed a bond through consistent handling and positive reinforcement techniques. Eagles are wild birds, but they work well with humans, sources told RT. They find the human voice soothing. The key aspect is to talk to them regularly, particularly while training them. The police were reluctant to name the species of eagle, concerned that terror groups could train the same birds and pull down surveillance drones on India's borders. Well, that makes sense too. Birds, dogs, and surveillance. The birds were trained for up to 2 hours daily at the Integrated Intelligence Training Academy, about 30 kilometers from Hyderabad, the state capital. An aviary was set to give them ample space for flying and perching. The IITA is where dogs are trained to detect explosives and held pick-up clues at crime scenes, besides accompanying policemen in operations. Since its inception in 2006, the IITA trained close to 800 canines and over 1,100 handlers. The rate of interception of drones by the eagles is very high, Tafsir Iqbal said. The birds are an important component of VIP security now. Recently, a demonstration was also held before the top brass at IITA. A video showed an eagle sitting on a shed, suddenly taking to the skies and towards an object. In a split second, it grabbed the object and flew back. It was a drone, and the task was accomplished with precision. The birds have also been trained for surveillance. They're equipped with cameras that provide high-quality images. Listen to this quote. They give us a bird's eye view of the goings-on both in the sky and on the ground to enable better surveillance, Iqbal said, without going into specifics. He added that training of eagles was cheaper than procuring anti-drone protection systems. It is believed that only a few 100,000 rupees, a few $1,000s, was spent during the past 3 years. Investment in nano and micro-level drones for such projects involves millions in expenses, Iqbal said. By comparison, our initiative was economical as we spent only on the birds and the training. But there are limitations. As the eagles cannot differentiate between home and rogue drones, they are used only in the red zones or no-fly zones. They can interdict nano drones up to 250 grams and micro drones 250 grams to 2 kilograms, but not beyond. And drones are now equipped with anti-collision sensors that might sense the birds and change course. We are closely monitoring all aspects. It's a new project, and we will wait and see how it turns out. Rogue drones and sophisticated technology. In recent times, there have been recorded instances of rogue drones being launched from Pakistan into India to drop weapons, ammunition, IED, and drugs. They've also been launched to attack. In a bid to thwart infiltration, the Army recently deployed a counter-drone system along the line of control between the two countries. India's northern regions of Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab have witnessed multiple drone attacks in the last few years. The BSF either shot down or recovered 107 drones from along the India-Pakistan border in Punjab in 2023, and in 2024, it took down 125 drones. radio frequency and GNS, Global Navigation Satellite System, jammers are the most common directed energy methods for interdicting drones, an Army official requesting anonymity said. With Telangana achieving success with Eagles, the Indian Army is definitely interested. In 2024, a fast-growing defense startup, Big Bang Boom Solutions Private Limited, say that quick, BBBS Limited, got an order worth over 2 billion rupees, that's 23.24 million, from an Indian Air Force and the Indian Army for its counter unmanned aerial systems technology. CUAS systems are intended to counter the growing threat from technologically simple, inexpensive, commercially available drones that can inflict disproportionate damage. BBBS's Vajra Sentinel is a state-of-the-art anti-drone system designed to detect, track, and neutralize drones at extraordinary ranges. Its sensors and jammers meet military standard specifications for durability and reliability. Jammers work either by severing the connection between the drone and its operator or increasing interference to make it difficult for the drone to locate the correct signal, said a senior official, adding that the system's core sensor is built around AI. Computer vision algorithms enable precise identification, classification, and location of drones. It's a brave new world out there, people. Drones are everywhere, and quite interesting for us to review. What else was there? President Putin, well, through his office, through Maria Zakharova, commented on the two genders that Trump is recognizing. This will be interesting. It'll be smart alecky, smart-assed for sure. Moscow comments on Trump's two-gender diversity rollback. The U.S. president has signed executive orders reversing protections for transgender rights and DEI programs. The decades-long U.S. promotion of the diversity and inclusion agenda should be investigated on an international level, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova has said. Zakharova made the remarks on Tuesday, a day after the newly inaugurated U.S. President Donald Trump ended protections for transgender rights and diversity, equity, inclusion within the federal government. Can you imagine how many people's lives have been ruined over the years of promoting this nonsense? Zakharova wrote on Telegram. What should hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people do now who have been forced to accept the ideology of amputating healthy genitals and replacing them with artificial ones, she added. Zakharova stated that officials in Washington had long been forcing other countries to show solidarity with what they call anti-scientific narrative, which in essence was the very propaganda that kills both the body and the soul. I made that comment on yesterday's show that even in Ukraine, you can't have the money unless you, start flying the rainbow flag, start honoring transgenders and calling it, I don't know what, the wave of the future. And again, just because you have to these days, I'm going to point out that I don't give a crap what you do in your private time. Doesn't bother me at all. But I don't want to see that affect people who are struggling with their identity, young people in particular, minors absolutely, and people have destroyed themselves over this, and I happen to agree with this article pretty much in total. Zakharova stated that officials in Washington have been forcing I already read that paragraph. This inhumane doctrine was linked with aid, sanctions, political and financial pressure, as well as the humiliation of human dignity and bullying, Zakharova claimed. Can't say she's not right. On his first day back in office, Trump repealed 78 executive orders signed by his predecessor, Joe Biden, including at least a dozen measures supporting racial equality and combating discrimination against gay and transgender people. I have no problem with gay or transgender people, none. And obviously, racial equity is racial equity. I have no problem against any race, any person. No problem against any person. But what your gender is or what your sex is has nothing to do with me. And I don't, I always wonder when the old white guy is going to be a protected category. When are you going to make me protected? And then people will say stuff, and then it starts the whole shooting match that, I have a advantage because I'm white. I have an advantage because I'm a male, and I just don't recognize my advantage. The playing field's level for everyone these days, and I don't believe that I am any better suited than anyone else. When everybody has the chance to get some things. Federal U.S. agencies and departments have 60 days from the order signing to end DEI-related practices. The order followed a promise Trump made during his inaugural address on Monday when he vowed to end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life in favor of a society that is colorblind and merit-based. Trump also said it will be official U.S. policy that there are only two genders, male and female. The order is meant to create equal treatment and requests a plan to dismantle the DEI bureaucracy, Trump aide told the New York Post. More actions on DEI are reportedly coming soon that would impact private business. The rollback of DEI programs drew an immediate backlash from civil rights groups who promised to fight back against these harmful provisions. Yeah, now their advantage is being taken away. Maybe they don't like it. Some corporations, including the largest U.S. private employer, Walmart, had already started reversing DEI initiatives in the weeks following Trump's election in November. Meta recently dismantled its DEI department, citing shifting legal and policy landscape. McDonald's has scaled back diversity targets for senior leadership. Other companies such as Costco and Apple reportedly remain committed to diversity policies. I'm not against that. You want to have a company that you recognize what you want to recognize? Who am I to tell you can't do it? Good for you. That's your decision to make. Here was another interesting one, which I don't know if JR got to it in his show or not. Don't know if he saw it. Trump renames U.S. landmarks. The executive order signed on Monday aims to honor America's greatness. U.S. President Trump has signed an executive order renaming Mount Denali, the tallest mountain in the U.S., and the Gulf of Mexico. The text of the order was released by the House on Monday. According to the document titled Restoring Names That Honor American Greatness, I don't know that I can take this. The purpose of the renaming is to promote American heritage. Trump had announced the changes in his inaugural speech on Monday. The naming of our natural resources, including breathtaking natural wonders and historic works of art, should honor the contributions of visionary and patriotic Americans in our nation's rich past, the executive order reads. The mountain in Alaska will once again be called Mount McKinley. Its name from 1917 to 2015, when then U.S. President Barack Obama returned the peak to its original native name. McKinley bears the name of the 25th U.S. President William McKinley, who led the U.S. to victory in the Spanish-American War in 1898. As a result of the peace treaty, Spain relinquished its claim to Cuba. and ceded sovereignty over Guam, Puerto Rico, Philippines to the United States. The U.S. also annexed the independent state of Hawaii during the conflict, thus expanding its territory. McKinley himself never visited Alaska. The executive order changes the official U.S. term for the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So he's done it. He has done it. See, it's these little games, because the next time somebody else comes into office, some Democrat, they're going to do the exact same thing. When does it end? When does it end? They'll just change it back. And every 4 years, what are we going to name things differently? Going to change the names of all the schools our kids go to. What's the next? What is next? The body of water located in the southeastern region of North America and bordered by the U.S., Mexico, and Cuba has long been an integral asset of the nation and is an indelible part of America, the executive order states. It adds that the Gulf's natural resources and wildlife remain central to the national economy. Trump's Make America Great Again slogan, first introduced in his 2016 presidential campaign, has been the cornerstone of his latest political initiatives, with the new executive order emphasizing American greatness in its title and linking the restoration of historic names to Trump's broader vision of national pride. The remaining moves are part of a flurry of executive orders that Trump signed on Monday. Among them are a ban on government officials violating the freedom of speech under the guise of fighting misinformation, a reversal of protections for transgender rights, and a suspension of foreign aid. Well, that I certainly agree with. I told you about that one yesterday. He also made a comment that he still has a half a day to settle the Ukraine conflict. That's funny. The newly inaugurated U.S. president had repeatedly promised to stop fighting in Moscow and Kiev, or between Moscow and Kiev, within 24 hours. Obviously, that didn't happen. And a couple of his comments is all I'll read here. Well, it's only half a day. I still have another half a day. We will see, he said, joking. We are going to try and get it done as quickly as possible. You know, the war with Ukraine and Russia should never have started. Is kind of what he put out. Russian authorities have noted statements by the new U.S. leader and his associates about the desire to restore direct contact with Russia, which were halted by the previous administration, and about the need to do everything to prevent World War III. Moscow remains committed to its principles and believes that dialogue must be built upon equal and mutual respect. I happen to agree with that. We shall have to see what shall be seen. Let's see. I want to go back to that one that I wanted to tell you about in the beginning. This is a big. I told you about yesterday. I read a story, or read an opinion piece on the West's hegemony, and then the multipolar world, and how the multipolar world is beginning to win, and I think that's going to keep on going. I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. Let's see. Let's see if I got a couple of comments to make before about that. There was a thing about Zelensky said the U.S. doesn't care about the EU. Now he's starting to get very concerned. I reported on that yesterday too. He didn't get invited to the party, to the inauguration, didn't get an invite. You know why? Here's what I believe. If the guy had ever wear a God-blessed tie, maybe he'd get an invite somewhere. Why are you going to invite some slob to come over there and not even dress appropriately for the occasion? You're not on the front lines. If you want to, you look enough like a comedian and a clown already, put on a damn suit, have people take you seriously, because people don't, not any longer. They thought you were, this man of the people stuff from your old comic days isn't panning out. You can only yank that uh, uh, cord for so long, and people aren't interested any longer. Is what I say. So I think you need to try to be taken a little more seriously and be a little more professional. And you're not a Gen Z kid who wants to have an earring and a tattoo and still get a job at McDonald's. You're supposed to be a serious world leader, and it's hard for anybody to take you seriously because you won't play the part. And it is a part for you. It's just a role, another role. You're being told what to do. We just wonder who the script writers are. So far, the script writers have all been from America and England. Anyway, Zelensky says the U.S. doesn't care about the EU. Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has raised concerns over the U.S. commitment to Europe and urged stronger EU defense efforts. Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has said that the U.S. does not prioritize Europe as a top concern. No! You kidding? Nobody knew that. And urged European countries to bolster their defense efforts. We've been trying to get them to bolster their own defense efforts for years. Trump specifically. Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos on Tuesday, he highlighted the need for Europe to take a more active role in its own security, especially in light of shifting U.S. foreign policy. Zelensky raised concerns about Washington's views of its relationship with Europe, arguing that Europeans see the U.S. as an irreplaceable ally, especially during wartime. But does anyone in the United States worry that Europe might one day leave them or stop being their ally? The answer is no. Washington does not believe that Europe can bring them anything truly significant, he added. Well, you're in that group too, Zelensky. What are you going to bring us? What is the point? Well, finally, somebody's speaking the truth, and most of us Americans already knew that. You are a good place to travel and see a history, a great history. You've got one. If you don't go destroying your country beforehand, you have a lot to offer to people in tourism, in production, in natural resources, in beauty, and all those things. But you've destroyed that by I don't know what you were trying to do, but it hasn't worked, whatever it was. The Ukrainian leader also referenced comments made by U.S. officials at the Asia Security Summit last year, saying that representatives of the then Biden administrations openly admitted that Europe was placed third in strategic priority, following the Indo-Pacific region and the Middle East. Well, no kidding. Zelensky also warned that Europe will lose relevance on the global stage if it fails to assert itself. Europe cannot afford to be a second or third priority for its allies. If that happens, the world will move forward without Europe, and it will be a world where it will not be comfortable to live, he said. I truly don't know what to think of this. What is he trying to gain some sort? What does he want to be the next head of the EU? What's his point here? Since the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022, the U.S. Congress has provided roughly $175 billion in military, economic, and humanitarian assistance to Kyiv. Trump has repeatedly promised to end the conflict between Moscow and Kyiv within 24 hours of retaking office. During his inauguration day on Monday, he joked he still had a half a day left to fulfill his promise. His nominee for envoy to the Ukraine conflict, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, has suggested a peace deal could be brokered within 100 days. Earlier on Tuesday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed that Ukraine will be a top priority for the administration, with work on a ceasefire agreement starting immediately. However, he added that both Ukraine and Russia will have to concede something as part of any deal. Well, we'll see what happens. During his first term, Trump frequently accused European nations of freeloading off American military might and underspending. I heard similar comments yesterday. Underspending on defense, with Germany often singled out for criticism. He urged NATO membership to meet their existing commitment of allocating 2% of GDP to defense, a benchmark many failed to reach. Before taking office in January, Trump reiterated his stance on defense spending, calling on European NATO members to increase their budgets to 5% of GDP. He argued that these nations can all afford the higher contributions, highlighting disparities in spending among allies. Well, I'm just against the U.S. always footing the bill for it, especially when we got nothing over there except an army that we don't need over there. You know, what is it? An excuse for, I don't know what, for senators to go over and party in Europe to visit the troops? I don't understand. It makes very little sense to me. Let's see. I want to go back to that opinion piece that I was telling you about, and I may have lost it. La 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 la. I got to get to my opinion pieces because I like them. And here they come. As I told you earlier in the show, and there are a couple of pieces I think I might read because I've already read both of them and I like them. One of them came out this evening. One of them came out several hours ago, earlier today. And one is entitled, Trump Roars Back into Office, Why U.S. Vassals Are Panicking. The other is entitled, As the West's Global Dominance Crumbles, the elites desperately want to blame Trump, but they are wrong. And that is similar to the story that I told yesterday, and I want to focus some more on that. The one I read yesterday by Mr. Well, remember his name. Remember what I told you. Konstantin von Hofmeister and his book Multipolarity. He had a very good article, and I am looking up the book. Multipolarity, von Hofmeister would be a nice German name, and very well written article. And when I get the book, I'm hoping that the book is, I assume it's equally well written. So that makes me anticipate its arrival. But as the new opinion piece comes today, we're gonna stay with the same topic as yesterday on multipolar versus hegemony and unipolar world order. And this article is called, As the West's Global Dominance Crumbles, Arguable, the elites desperately want to blame Trump, but they're wrong. The unipolar world order is not being dismantled by what is happening inside its center, America. I'll point that out. Again, this article is by Tariq Amar. Asking a lot of other people about what they think may be interesting. But the real fun starts when you make it all about your own opinion. That is, of course, the secret magic of politicizing opinion polling. Sometimes you wonder if there is any other type. In any case, a major recent effort by the European Council on Foreign Relations, ECFR, a gilt-edged Western establishment think tank, is no exception. Published under the poetic title, Alone in a Trumpian World, the study examines the EU and global public opinion after the U.S. elections. That is, really, after the return of Donald Trump, bugaboo extraordinaire of the mainstream Eurocentrists and their establishment nomenclatura throughout bureaucracies, media, academia, and, of course, think tanks. See, I like how they attack these things. I just love it. They're very sarcastic. They're quite sarcastic and targeted. It continues. Based on a large-scale opinion poll conducted with a total of 28,549 respondents last November, just after Trump's U.S. election triumph, in 16 European, including both Russia and Ukraine, and 8 non-European countries, the resulting report mimics a simple commentary, summarizing some observations here, offering some conclusions there. Among the observations, the most straightforward is that much of the world is optimistic about Trump, hoping that he will not only benefit America, but also promote international peace by making the U.S. a more normal great power. I wish we were more normal. I'm not so sure we're gonna be normal, especially if Rubio's still out there. He's just another hack. He's just another Republican in name only. He still believes in dominating the world. So I'm afraid of that. The main outliers to this pattern are the European Union and the even more splendidly self-isolated UK, where respondents stick to a pessimistic view. In a way, the report's authors themselves cannot stop illustrating that European isolation. Time and again, we read that the more positive opinion almost everyone else in the world has of Trump, whether rightly or wrongly, is surprising or remarkable. It's ironic, but this tone of mildly puzzled perplexity is just what you would expect from a bunch of Western European elite representatives that find the world hard to grasp because Europe is so out of sync. Just imagine how different this report might look if it were based on the same polls, but had been drafted by a group of Indian or Chinese intellectuals. Now, that's an interesting theory. In any case, at its core, this is not even really a study of political mood. Instead, think of it, if you wish, as a manifesto wrapped in opinion polling. As you would expect from authors who are major public intellectuals, Timothy Garton Ash, Ivan Krastev, and Mark Leonard, this is not a shy policy memo, humbly submitted by bureaucrats who may even enjoy their anonymity. On the contrary, this is a brief, sometimes cursory, yet extremely ambitious statement of geopolitical advice. It is tied to a grand and anything but dispassionate ideology of world order, namely a greatly idealized vision of Western, in practice U.S., global dominance that, for believers, goes by the name of liberal international order. By the way, that's what we've all been fighting. For the authors, the significance of a second Trumpian moment for the EU and really the world lies in its catalysis of the ongoing end of that order. It is challenged from outside, and its core is not in good shape either, they recognize. The global non-Western refusal to follow the West after 2022 escalation of the Ukraine war showed that the West was isolated, divided from the rest, as the report delicately puts it. But now things are worse again. The West itself is divided so badly that indeed it may no longer be possible to speak of the West as a single geopolitical actor. In that world, the author's key recommendation, and really the whole point of the report, is that the EU should behave like a traditional great power, acknowledging realist foreign policy precepts. Or, as they put it, it should stop posing as a moral arbiter and instead build its own domestic strength. In other words, nationalism in pursuit of its own good abroad. So you take care of yourself at home, you're going to look better abroad, right? Anyway, I continue. The fact that this is really a manifesto does not mean it cannot be thought-provoking or that its underlying polling results are simply false or irrelevant, even if some are based on transparently disingenuous framing. For instance, a question probing respondents' attitudes toward the destruction of Gaza by Israel simply does not feature either genocide or any other crime as an answer option. Instead, respondents are only permitted to choose between three different kinds of war and conflict. In a similar, if less egregious vein, a question about the nature of the Ukraine war offers no answer, including the term proxy war. Yet it is not a matter of opinion to acknowledge the fact that both views are widespread, and for good reason. To deprive the respondents of these obviously relevant options seems either elementarily flawed or crudely manipulative. Manipulative, I say. Likewise, it is at least puzzling to read that a strong change in Ukraine's public public opinion in favor of a compromised peace is really new. It's not really new. As a matter of fact, we have been seeing evidence of this ongoing shift for a long time. Ukrainian pollsters and sociologists were picking up on it and writing about it too last spring, that is, almost a year ago. The study's obvious political function means that the best, most rewarding manner to read it is as what it really is, namely a piece of ideology in action. Indeed, once we do so, things get much more intriguing, especially if we also ask another crucial question. What are the things that are obviously and implausibly avoided? Let's start by getting the single most glaring omission with a message out of the way. One thing the authors acknowledge is that a new global order is replacing that sinking post-Cold War liberal order. Yeah, what do you think that is? No biggie, you would think, if a little obvious. Welcome to the club. We have all been thinking about this for about 2 decades at least. But to find this fact openly recognized by the ECFR, an ideological commanding height second perhaps only to its older cousin, the U.S. Atlantic Council, is a modest historical data point in and of itself. I find that amusing. What's truly odd, though, are the lengths to which the authors go to avoid one simple word. And I said this yesterday, the exact same thing. Multipolarity. When are we going to get to that word, people? Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about other countries being just as important as every other country, just as important as America. Search as much as you want. It's just not there, the term. Trying to come to terms with the new international order that they have noticed is emerging, the authors offer a la carte. Sure, my favorite restaurant is also about the power of life and death all the time, from starters to dessert. Polyamorous, another word, a la carte, polyamorous, and the oldie but goodie zero sum. Usually opinion polls are a little dry, but this one, once you know where to look, is entertaining. It's just too amusing how much lexical conceptual helplessness can be introduced by simple jealousy. Can't let the Russians, for instance, be having the right idea and using the correct word all the time now, can we? Multipolarism. Speaking of Russians, the second big omission from this report is, of course, the Ukraine war. Not, however, in the simple sense that it does not feature, it does. We learn, for instance, that in a number of large and or powerful countries, majorities of respondents believe that achieving peace in Ukraine will be more likely under Donald Trump. In alphabetical order, China, 60%, India, 65%, Russia, 61%, Saudi Arabia, 62%, South Africa, 53%, and then the U.S., 52%. Think that peace in Ukraine is more likely under the old Trumpster. Even in countries where this expectation is not dominant, there are still pluralities or sizable minorities who see Trump as promoting peace in Ukraine, for instance. Brazil, 45%. The consolidated sample of 11 members of the EU, the study has used, 34%. Indonesia, 38%. Turkey, 48%. And Ukraine, 39%. In addition, respondents were polled on a whole battery of questions related to the Ukraine war, ranging from, in essence, who's to blame, via what should we do now, and who's going to win. And then there's a question for Ukrainians only regarding what outcomes they would be willing to support. The answers are not encouraging. As the authors note, there is no consensus in Ukrainian society on the nature of an acceptable compromise, and such disagreements could stoke political turmoil if and when negotiations begin. And you just wait for the turmoil. One is tempted to add, when they end with, in reality, the very costly in lives, territory, and prosperity. Ukrainian defeat that could have been avoided if Ukraine's false friends in the West had not provoked and then sustained their selfish as well as ill-conceived proxy war to take down Russia. But it is unsurprising that Ash, Krastev, and Leonard miss an aspect of reality that would diverge from their own ideological predispositions all too painfully. I love how this guy writes. And yet, with so much polling about the Ukraine war, in one way or another, the authors still missed the single most pertinent point about it. The most powerful factor now in further accelerating the demise of the so-called liberal order is not the second election of Donald Trump. That is the premise their whole study is built on, and it is mistaken. What is really speeding up the decline of the West is that it is losing its great proxy war in Ukraine. This, after all, has been the most hubristic proxy war regime change project that the West has ever undertaken, targeting Russia, a major great power that also happens to have the single largest nuclear arsenal in the world. The failure of this project was predictable. I know because I did predict it. That's the writer, but I predicted it too, way back before it started. It's like, well, what are you doing? So, I do a lot of reading, so maybe I should know. It is now the key fact of this moment in history. Even Donald Trump, ambitious and willful as he is merely reacting to this reality. Try a thought experiment. What would Ash, Krastev, and Leonard be writing about the liberal international order now if the West had succeeded and Russia had lost? See? Yet it is the West that is losing, while Russia is winning. In general, what has changed the world the most is not happening inside the West. It's happening outside of it. Most of all, the rise of China, the resurgence of Russia, and the self-reassertion of the global South. Now, I've been talking about this for a good long time and why I thought that BRICS was so freaking important. Final paragraph. And that is the final irony of this report. At its center is an invitation to others, Chinese, Indians, Indonesians, Russians, for instance, to share their opinions about the return of Trump and its consequences. That, in and of itself, is a strikingly, I can't read today. That, in and of itself, is a strikingly self-centered approach. Yes, do please talk to us, the West, but about our new boss. Western Europe has a long way to go to find its place in a changing world. Agreed? Very interesting article. I didn't see any book at the top of it. And then people, there's some comments, and I'm going to read a few of them. Golden age, but for the top half of the country. Tax cuts will accelerate wealth gap. Tariffs have no effect on the well-off. It's the best time for the rich. They'll be far richer. The working poor, you got what you voted for. Too bad, you fools. I disagree with that. He obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. Tariffs aren't going to have any effect on anybody because they're just not going to work. Not this time. Because there are alternative markets. We're pricing ourselves out of the market. And so we're not going to end up being the ones to pay them. They'll just find different markets, and those markets are developing rapidly. All over the global South, all over Indonesia, all over any BRICS country. And they're going to be the preferred recipients of production from other BRICS countries. Here's another commentary from someone named James. Imagine this in a war cycle when three major nuclear superpowers are fighting for artificial intelligence, excuse me, and semiconductor dominance, including quantum AI computers. Those very laboratories and manufacturing facilities are targets to destroy the competition. Laughing my ass off. Segregation is the way of nature. Question: in thousands of years, did all the nations decide to speak one language? No. Summary: the only thing different nations have in common is they wish to live. Not a bad comment. I don't know. I like it. There's that's a plenty good article. If you, it's written a little lofty. The guy's a lofty writer. I like that. And I am not against it at all. It's very well done, and I think that we all need to read more on that topic or on those sorts of topics, because hegemony is not going to save us, not going to fix what we wish to fix. I think I've locked up on my Instagram channel. Sorry about that, folks. And but it's still live on the other two streams, and so that is a good thing. If you are interested, I want to go through a few more things on the Russian end, and particularly on the business side. There were a couple of things about BRICS. Saudi Arabia sent notice today that they provided an update on their membership, that they are still assessing whether to join the bloc. So they haven't joined yet. Saudi Arabia is still evaluating potential membership of BRICS. The Gulf nation's Minister of Economy and Planning, Faisal Al-Ibrahim, told Bloomberg in an interview Monday. The economic bloc was established in 2009. Yeah, I'm not going to read that. We've been invited to the BRICS, similar to how we've been invited to many other multilateral platforms in the past historically. Saudi Economy Ministry told the news agency on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum. We assess many different aspects of it before a decision is made. Right now, we are in the middle of that. Al-Ibrahim emphasized that Riyadh is always focusing on fostering more global dialogue. The kingdom, along with 5 other nations, was invited to become a member of the group in the 15th BRICS summit held in Johannesburg in August 2023. Argentina declined an invite after President Javier Milei opposed the move, reversing the stance of his predecessor, Alberto Fernandez. Last month, Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov announced that the group had approved partnership status for Belarus, Bolivia, Kazakhstan, Thailand, Cuba, Uganda, Malaysia, and Uzbekistan, which took effect at the start of this year. Partner status was established at the last BRICS summit hosted by Russia in Kazan in October 2024. It is intended to serve as an alternative to membership after over 30 countries applied to join the group. Holders of this status can permanently participate in special sessions of BRICS summits, ministerial meetings, and other high-level events. Partners can contribute to the group's outcome documents, but do not take part in the approval of documents or voting. So that is the difference between them. That is an interesting piece of news. What else do we got? I wanted to keep checking out on Russian gas and any news on that. I try to stay on top of. In the EU especially, I like to talk about. Spokesperson has acknowledged that the sanctioned country's energy still flowing into the EU. Russian energy continues to flow to the EU despite the bloc's commitment to eliminating its dependence upon it, a European Commission spokesperson has said. The EU's imports of liquefied natural gas from Russia surged in the first 2 weeks of 2025, rising by more than 10% in annual terms. Russia's energy, particularly gas, is still present in the EU. The EC spokesperson for climate action and energy, Anna-Kaisa Itkonen, told a press briefing on Monday. She noted that the Commission plans to issue a roadmap in late February or mid-March aimed at completely ending Russian energy imports. My comment is good luck with that one. Last week, Politico reported, citing data tracked by commodities data provider Kipler, that imports by EU member states of Russian LNG have surged to an all-time high after they purchased 837.3 metric tons of super-chilled gas in the first 15 days of this year. Itkonen also previously admitted that the EU's Russian gas imports increased in 2024. Imports surged again shortly after Ukraine refused to extend a 5-year transit contract with Russian energy giant Gazprom at the end of 2024, cutting off Romania, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Austria, Italy, and Moldova from piped natural gas from Russia. Following escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022 and the sabotage of Nord Stream pipelines, the EU prioritized reducing its reliance on Russian energy. Yeah, not like you had much of a choice. Some members voluntarily stopped importing Russian gas while others kept doing so. Some countries also continued importing Russian LNG since the chilled fuel was only partially targeted by sanctions. In June, the EU targeted Russian LNG for the first time, banning reloading operations, ship-to-ship transfers, and ship-to-shore transfers with the purpose of re-exporting to third countries via the EU. The sanctions have a 9-month transition period. According to data compiled by the Institute of Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, in the first half of 2024, Russia was the second biggest supplier of LNG to the European continent after the U.S. The loss of Russian gas could cost the EU over 1 trillion euros, according to Kirill Dmitriev, chief executive of the Russian Direct Investment Fund. Truly interesting times indeed, is it not? There are many, many things to talk about still. I was checking on the frontline battles and where we were. But as I said yesterday in my program, I need to buy one more small piece of technology to get this to work correctly in my little mini studio here. And so therefore, I'm not going to attempt to draft that properly. So here we are as kind of a wrap up for today. We are now a full 20, how many, what was it, 11 o'clock yesterday that he was sworn in? So we're 9 hours in there. It's about 8 p.m. on Tuesday. And so we are 10 hours plus 24. So we're not even 2 days in, a day and a half in. And it's already started on the news media, on what do they like to call it, the legacy news media. But if you go to your standard news, if you type in news, Trump, U.S. inauguration, there are a lot of not so positive things about him. For example, if you do just a quick search, beneath the veneer, here's the AP for you. Beneath a veneer of calm, Trump's inauguration holds warning signs for the U.S. How do you like that? Donald Trump defends the release of Capitol riot leaders from prison. Trump, no, that one. Where's, there's some positive ones too, though. But basically, that's key moments. And let's see, why don't we take a news one? Trump defends the release of Capitol rioters. No, these are all the same. Oh, this one was rather comical. This is where they try to go now to start some kind of a I don't know what negative. You got to go after him still. You can't just let him off the hook, right? So now Trump did not put his hand on the Bible at inauguration. Here's what to know about the tradition. No, didn't know anything about this. Said he didn't put his hand on the Bible. I wouldn't know why. Not even sure I really care. But it's interesting to see what they put in it. Maybe it's an old Bible. Maybe it's fragile. Who knows what it is? First Lady Melania Trump held two Bibles, one given to Mr. Trump by his mother when he was a child, and the Lincoln Bible, which was used at Abraham Lincoln's 1861 inauguration. Wow, that's kind of cool. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts directed Mr. Trump raise his right hand, repeat after him, as Miss Trump was still approaching with the Bibles. Ms. Trump arrived next to her husband a moment later before he began reciting the oath of office. Well, what difference does it make? Why do you got to put your hand on the Bible? J.D. Vance did place his hand on the Bible when he took the oath of office. What a waste of time. Nobody really cares. That's nothing to worry about, in my opinion. That's CBS for you, Put anything you want on there. What else do they have? I'm not sure what I think is going to happen, but I tell you what, it's sure going to be an interesting time to be alive. As I did yesterday, I'm going to walk you through how to pay attention to me. You can log into I do a Russian version of this show, basically once or twice a week. Interesting, yesterday I was doing my Russian version, and I spent an hour on the telephone with the guy today. A person in Russian. I believe we may be starting a joint effort, or at least a regular series of interviews together, discussing things as we know. He was an interesting person with a hell of a history. And so it could be interesting to talk politics with a guy like that, either in Russian or English or both. He's been in the United States long time, came from the former Soviet Union, came here before the collapse even of the Soviet Union. And so there's some plenty to talk about, I think. And I told him about my arms control history, and would like to speak with them about that. So even if it's nothing more than a show or two where we get together and talk about a few things, might be able to shed some interesting light on old times and what was going on. I won't prequel any of the stories that he and I talked about today, but we wrapped for a little while, and we're going to try to put something together and do a joint program. And I just would like you to be aware of that. Also, you can follow or listen daily at weekdays at 4 p.m. Missouri time, 5 p.m. in Florida, to International Flavor on damradio.com. There's an app to download, Damn Radio. It's an English version exclusively. This program will be there tomorrow because, again, I have an obligation tomorrow in the afternoon, and so therefore I will be unable to. It's possible I might still be able to do a live show. If I can, I will, but it's looking grim. Not so sure it's going to happen. So we will wrap up right about there. If you go to Damn Radio schedule, you will find that today is Tuesday. My show is already finished, of course. Wednesday these shows are all an hour different. They play in my time zone, so they all go backward an hour. I don't want to say them wrong, so I'm just going to tell you the name of the show. We have the Damn Schwag, which is a good show. Gabby Hayes Show. I enjoy listening to that guy. He's a lot of fun. And JR's Really Big Shoe comes on 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. I'm on 4 to 6:30 with International Flavor. And then my second favorite after JR is Radio Free Missouri with Ike Skelton. I like listening to Ike when I can, and I hope to tomorrow. On Thursday, we will again have a Really Big Shoe at 2 p.m. We'll have me at 4 p.m., Missouri International Flavor. And then we will have the Fitzwell Factor coming on at 6 o'clock. That is also an interesting show. On Friday, we have Nadine at 9. I like listening to her. We have a Really Big Shoe at 2 o'clock. We have me at 4 o'clock. And then we have the Eye of the Beholder at 6 p.m. And then wrapping around to the start of next week on Monday, we have the Shield Maidens of Missouri from 1:15 till 2. JR's Really Big Shoe at 2 p.m. Me at 4. And Jack's Car Show at 6 p.m. And then full week ahead on Tuesday, we have a Really Big Shoe, International Flavor, and the Show Me History comes on at 5:30. Love it. Great show. I like listening to that. I like history, though. So, but if you like history, these guys do some in-depth, and I like it. It's Professor Jim Paisley, Dave Maupin, and Bill Mulder. So very good stuff. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can follow me on all kinds of places. Easiest way to get a hold of me is through my email, samtrap1@gmail.com. Always look out. Your opinion's as valuable as mine. I honor your opinion as much as my own, and I will never force my opinion upon any of you. If you don't want to listen, don't. But I appreciate you listening because I do think you'll learn some things and perhaps a different perspective. So I definitely appreciate you. Please feel free to join us every night from 4 to 6 p.m. Have a good evening. Thank you.